You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Jim Fitzpatrick. Today we're diving into how dealerships are adapting to the EV shift and what they're doing to sell and service them effectively. Joining us now is Ed Roberts, Chief Operations Officer at Bozard Ford Lincoln and the author of Mile One. Thank you so much, Ed, for joining us on the show again.
Thanks for having me, Jim. I'm looking forward to this.
Sure. So everybody's kind of concerned about EVs and what it all means, and are we going to be selling and servicing? Do consumers even want these cars? But are you seeing a rise in the demand for EVs in your market, or are they sitting on the back lot waiting to be sold?
Well, we've had some that sit around for sure, and we're moving through them, and certainly the early adopters, they're going to overcome whatever obstacles are out there. So those were the ones that created that surge, and then everybody jumps on the bandwagon and say, this is the next big deal. And then it kind of settles down a bit,
Sure.
And then the tax credit changes a bit, and then everybody pulls back. Well, the demand's still there.
Sure.
So it didn't just get turned off. It just pulled down. It wasn't as high as it was.
Right.
And we just got to help customers overcome the obstacles, because early adopters would overcome their own.
Right. I spoke to one dealer that said he made it mandatory that all of his sales team takes EVs home for at least a half, maybe 6 or 7 days or 10 days or what have you, to really get to know EVs inside and out. Because as you know, being in the industry as long as you have been, if a salesperson isn't sold on a particular vehicle, they're going to walk around that car because they just don't know it. They're just not sold on it. So it's kind of his feeling was win the hearts and minds of the sales staff, and then the customers will follow. Would you agree with that concept?
Absolutely. If you don't put butts in seats, you're not going to sell an EV. And when a customer comes in and asks for an EV, I mean, let's look at automotive retail as it is. When a customer comes in, they already know the vehicle they're looking at. They know the vehicle they're looking to buy. They have all those elements. And then they come in and ask one of our associates, I'm here to look at whatever it may be. Let's Mach-E in my example. And they say, oh, you don't want that because of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, the customer's already set on that. And we can talk about bringing them out or whatever we talk about. Reality is we got to make our people in tune with them so that they create that excitement. They build on that excitement when someone wants to test drive them, because maybe they hadn't done all the research and they just want to go drive them.
Yeah.
Well, they are a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah.
And my daughter drives one 100% of the time, and I brought it in yesterday for service, and it is a fun car to drive.
Yeah. There's no question. Yep.
So yes, we have to put butts in seats so that they can talk about it firsthand.
That's right. In fact, some friends of mine that went to shop for EVs on their next vehicle, they said they were actually kind of spun around by the salesperson that said, there's the infrastructure isn't there right now. It's not a popular car. These are not what we're selling. Consumers don't really want them. And therefore they drove out in ICE vehicles. And later on, they thought to themselves, well, that's kind of strange. We keep hearing about EVs, but it was the sales department that put them in the other vehicle, a non-EV. So it's kind of crazy, right?
They sell them what they have confidence in. So if we put our people in them, then they can build their confidence. And ultimately, you don't want them leaving feeling like they was sold. You want to help them find that you help them buy their car.
That's right.
And so it's about tying everybody in, because it's mindset. If you don't believe that it's the right car for our consumers, you're going to convince our consumers that it's not.
That's
and
right.
then but as the dealer, we still have to play floor plan. We still have those vehicles in inventory.
Right.
We still have to move them. So it's about overcoming those obstacles, and then help with that home infrastructure, because it doesn't matter if the infrastructure is not out there, because most customers aren't going to drive their car their entire range in a day.
That's right.
So if we help them overcome that home infrastructure, it's not an issue.
Yeah, for sure. Have you needed to adjusted much in your service department to accommodate for servicing EVs?
Not necessarily, because the world knows we've been under construction a lot over the last 5 years, and we've added different buildings and different shops and whatever else. And as we do that, we prepared those places to be able to do it with chargers inside the service facility and all those things, and bays specifically for them. So we hadn't had to make the adjustments because we prepared going into it to build for those things.
Sure.
And on property, we're now, and we haven't powered up the last 30, but we're going to have 42 chargers on property, because we want to encourage our staff to drive EVs as well and offer them free charging. And so the last transformer is going in to power up those other 30. and then
Wow.
we will look like an EV retail center, certainly.
Well, and how do you foresee the EV market evolving in the next few years? What if we were having this discussion, let's say 5 years from now, what percentage of your sales do you think sitting here right now will be EVs?
Well, let me answer that a little bit wider. When the early adopters bought their vehicles and we dropped off from that and the sales
Hmm.
declined, the manufacturers started putting money on the hood.
Right.
And when they started putting money on the hood, vehicles started moving out again. Well,
Isn't
when
it
that
amazing how
happened,
that
so
works?
yeah, so we know that there's a point where customers still want them. And so the price of those vehicles are going to find that point because the manufacturers has got to do it to meet all their CAFE standards and all that. So they have to push these vehicles out.
Right.
So it's about getting to that retail mark of where the consumers are going to embrace them.
Right.
And then as that happens, I believe that within the next couple of years, we'll be over 10% in EV sales. And whether we'll get to 20 or 25% by 2030, who knows on that?
Sure.
But I believe we can be in the double digit range. We've had 1 month in double digit range 2 years ago, and then never got back there as a percentage. And I believe it will get back there fairly quick, and then it'll continue to climb at a smaller rate.
Sure, sure. It looks like Toyota's taken more of a, well, kind of a let's pump the brakes here a little bit and bring these people as kind of a crossover to and use maybe the plug-in hybrid or the hybrid vehicles that are out there and kind of slow walk them into a full EV vehicle, right? Is that a good approach?
Man, I think it's a phenomenal approach because change is tough for anyone. We
Yeah,
say it's tough in the automotive industry, but it's tough for anyone. And when we're changing their habits, they struggle with that a bit. But when we have something that transitions them, where if they do forget to plug the car in and it still works because it's still an ICE vehicle as well as a hybrid, it allows the customer to go through that transition and the change not be as painful to them. So I think it's a genius approach to let's shift to hybrid,
mm-hmm,
then the plug-in hybrid,
mm-hmm.
then to full electric, and some of the others taking it on a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah,
Now looking at it a little differently, so they understand that it is a transition.
right, right. Rather than a just hit the switch and you're all EV. Everybody wants an EV, which we learned the tough way. That's just not the case. But hey, switching gears a little bit, here we are in the month of July, and we have the half of 2024 behind us. How was the first half of 2024 for your business? And then B, what's your forecast for the second half?
Well, we set huge goals here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. So our first half was phenomenal.
Okay.
The we didn't hit all of our priorities, but they are all very aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
But we did hit most of them. But and even the ones that we didn't hit, we made very huge. We 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 we, we really reached out there and set a goal that was almost unachievable
Mm-hmm.
and still almost hit it.
Wow.
And so it's about resetting, making sure, and we'll have a priorities meeting next Tuesday.
Right.
It's about resetting and making sure those priorities are still in line with what we can get done
Sure.
and push forward. But the overall business, we're up over 20% year over year
That's
as a
fantastic.
combined store, and
Yeah.
about 33% just in fixed.
Yeah. You hear so much in the media about a very, a bad economy and consumers are feeling the pinch and they don't want to go out and buy anything. And, if you tune into the president's debate, regardless of which side you're on, you just think, oh my God, it sounds like such a mess out there. But then the dealers that I talk to around the country are going, we're not only are we fine, but they echo your sentiments, which is we're doing great. And that kind of flies in the face of all of this negativity out there in the media. What do you make of that?
It's all about having a plan. And if you have a plan, the plan is talking about what you can do.
Yeah.
Without a plan, then you get hung up in those things and talk about the obstacles that's out there. Well, let's focus on what we said we was going to focus on. And when we're doing that, we're talking about the things that we can do and we can control. There's always going to be elements, no matter where we're at in time, that there's things that we can't have the influence that we want to have, and we don't like what they are.
Right.
But they are what they are.
Yeah.
Focus on what we can control, have a plan, work that plan, modify it as needed, and keep pushing forward, and the right things will happen.
That's right. That's right. Ford and Lincoln, they have been a little bit challenged. Mr. Farley has been under the gun a little bit, but do you feel good about Ford and Lincoln's future?
Absolutely, we got some great product coming. Some of the 25 stuff gives us a fresh deal to market,
Mm-hmm.
or some fresh elements. But And we was #1 in Navigator sales in June nationwide, and #6 in Lincoln. So the
Wow.
opportunities are still there. Are there challenges? Yes. And Farley is one that really kind of jumps at things really quick and then kind of looks back and say, okay, maybe we need to slow things down a little bit. I'd rather have someone that we got to pull back
Yeah.
than have someone we always got to kick. So
Good point.
I like what Farley's doing. There's always opportunity for all of us to get better. I'd like for him to look a little deeper in the business before he makes some of the changes. But hey, those are things that we can't control. All we
Sure.
can do is run with what he gives us, and that's what we're going to do.
Sure, sure. Ed Roberts, Chief Operations Officer at Bozard Ford Lincoln on Team Farley, I might add. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It's always great getting that update from you.
Thank you, Jim. Glad to be here.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.